What extremely controversial thing? S. Do you honestly believe, but don't talk about to avoid the arguments? I've gotten really sick of arguing in favor of nuclear power. I legitimately believe that for the growth in energy and reduction in carbon footprint we'll require in the next 30 years, especially with rapidly modernizing nations, nuclear is one of the only options for short-term power growth. People are blinded by catastrophic failures, though, even though there's no question that coal and oil are dramatically worse in terms of health issues, deaths, and environmental damage. I also completely agree with you. I've given up telling people my position though because they tend to tell me I don't care about our planet. But what about the nuclear waste is another popular question. My grandma threatened to write me out of her will because of my position on nuclear power. I just don't talk about it anymore. I think that on average, women are worse drivers than men. Statistically, women have more accidents, men have worse accidents. Remember everyone, if you want to actually read something controversial, sort this thread by controversial. If you want to keep on with the things we Redditors believe because we're so much more enlightened than the rest of society circle jerk, sort this thread by best. Ha, I just tried this. Sorted by best. I don't think we should be pushing every kid toward college, a sentiment I have seen on Reddit hundreds of times that most people would agree with. Sorted by controversial. There are two types of black people and N. I don't think gay people should be able to adopt. Myth confirmed. I should be allowed to determine when I die. When I am decrepit, let me pull the plug. Nothing wrong with euthanasia. We weren't meant to live as long as we do now. I think a lot of people, myself included, spend too much time browsing the web while at work. Additionally, I think that because I have so much free time on my hands, I and others like me could take on more work and be more productive than other workers in similar positions and then should be paid more. You're probably right. Also, frick you for pointing it out. Voting is totally useless, at least right now. The baby boom generation is the center of most political and economic problems in America. Correction, voting in national elections is useless. You have more of a voice in state elections, and everyone should vote on city ordinances because that's where your vote has the most influence. But most people have it backwards. Most stereotypes have a basis in truth. They represent a correlation of people and traits that's greater than 0 and less than 1. It's extremely unlikely that there is no correlation whatsoever. Further, stereotypes that manifest as a general fear and distrust of people who look different from you are a natural evolutionary defense mechanism. Making split-second decisions based on appearance helped our ancestors stay alive for millions of years. Nobody is immune to these impulses. Some people are just better at not acting upon them. You will make stereotypical assumptions about people on first sight, like it or not. The best you can do is try to acknowledge and correct for your own bias, and give people a fair chance to disprove those assumptions. And I'm sick of being called racist every time I try explaining this. I think that teaching your child unhealthy eating habits that led to them being obese is a serious form of child abuse that should be dealt with. I remember seeing a little girl at Disney World who couldn't be over 9 years old that was easily twice the weight of me, a 14-year-old male at the time. She was carrying a triple scoop ice cream cone. All I could feel was absolute rage and infuriation with her parents. Men and women have different strengths and weaknesses. There are differences in gender, and while absolutely everyone should be granted every opportunity, the androgenization of our culture does not necessarily strengthen us as a society. Having children isn't a right. If you're broke or addicted to drugs, keep it in your dang pants. I'd like to have children, but I'm not stupid enough to do it on $19k a year. If I paid income taxes, I'd probably lose my mind at all the poor white trash with 3-4 kids and no visible means of support. There's condoms too. I believe it's stupid to continue commenting on a Reddit post when it's only an hour old and already has 2k comments. X. That I am a part of a forgotten generation. In my mid-20s right now. Our fathers and grandfathers reaped the benefits of their predecessors and now believe their children are somehow unworthy of those same benefits. That latest recession and wars were manufactured by corporations to rape the poor and destroy the middle class. Abortions when done early enough first trimester are not murder. Any later, just have the child and give it up for adoption. At the rate this economy is going, I will not see retirement, healthcare and social security will be gone, and probably won't be able to afford to help my children go to college because I'll still be paying for my own education. I'm a libertarian from Europe, so I never ever discuss politics. It's kinda hard though, because people always want to discuss it with me when they know I study philosophy. At first I liked the discussions, but I soon found out that people only want to convince the other, and people still called my ideas stupid. I'm not 100% sure about my ideas, but at least I've read other works whereas most people get their opinions from the rhetoric of a politician. I believe that there should be an option for anyone on death row to choose to fight in a gladiatorial arena. This would be broadcast for the entertainment of the rest of society, and if they won enough matches we would grant them some sort of freedom, at least get them off death row. That while banks played a huge part in the financial crisis, so did individuals who took out mortgages they couldn't afford and they don't take the personal responsibility for it. I think all drugs and prostitution should be legal, and we should just tax the heck out of it all. The federal government needs money, that'll do it, and reduce corruption to boot. That's not really a controversial opinion, especially on Reddit. I truly believe with all my heart that the King of England does not rule by divine right. Revolutionary, I know. Don't judge me, it's 2011. I think that your genetics affects your behavior, attitudes, intelligence, and athletic ability, and that people from distinct gene pools often have similar behavioral characteristics that are influenced as much by genetics as by culture. That makes me a racist by definition. It doesn't make you a racist, but you are looking at genetics at a very simplified way. In the US, at the age of 18 you may only get voting privileges if you are able to satisfactorily pass a test similar to the US citizenship test for immigrants. You may make one attempt every 6 months and, once passed, you retain voting privileges for 10 years. That would help out our overwhelming voter turnout. That just seems like another barrier that could be manipulated and become easily corrupted. I believe that reality TV should be destroyed. They make it look like they're heroes by turning around their life choices, but in reality they're people who chose to be lazy and are trying to turn it around by doing it the easy way. That's not exactly controversial. I'm an atheist, but I absolutely loathe others that seem to make it their life goal to discredit religion. To me, I don't believe in any sort of supernatural deity, so I politely decline to make it even the most basic part of my life. It seems to me that spending your entire life arguing against religion is somewhat akin to spending your life following one. Your extremely controversial belief is overwhelmingly the mainstream. Perhaps not on our atheism, but most people, atheists included imo, feel exactly the same as you. Most people on Reddit don't understand race relations in the United States, and those who think that the racism, both legally sanctioned and otherwise of a generation ago, doesn't still affect America are delusional. The Occupy Wall Street protests will not affect anyone that those people are speaking out against, and I doubt they will accomplish anything. Many people who complain about the price of online services, that is, Netflix and online news sources, are acting spoiled and entitled. I believe servicemen and women shouldn't be worshipped as heroes. They signed up for a job and did that job. They should be treated the same as everyone who does a job. Same goes for police and firefighters. Now let the downvotes commence. I believe most of our servicemen and women are underpaid. Women's studies is a silly major to choose. Possession of child pornography should probably not be punished by decades of jail time. Copying files is not the same as stealing. Facebook and other social media websites are not worth using. While I do it, tipping waiters waitresses is stupid and they should just be paid fair wages. Some people are absolute idiots. There is nothing that makes them smart. They are dumb and there is nothing that can be done about it. People who live in this country should at least try to learn English. I am an American and I think universal healthcare is an amazing idea and that Germany, Sweden, Canada have got this thing figured out. We should be allowed to be outright mean to people. Frick this polite PC whatnot, that means I have to be nice to someone who is being an butthole idiot mean. If you really think about it, it's pretty shocking how some people can be so smart and others be so stupid. It's like a different species. Next time you see someone do something really stupid, just think that at the same time someone out there is splicing DNA and trying to cure AIDS. Redditors are mostly angsty teenagers and early 20-somethings with a head full of ideals that they read on the internet and no freaking idea about how the world actually works. Hating the war, but supporting the troops is bulls. The 1950s are dead. Pretending like there is something honorable about throwing yourself into a sandy country to shoot brown people for no freaking reason is intensely stupid. You're not protecting my freedom, you're endangering it. I agree. You know who I respect? People like Muhammad Ali who went to jail as opposed to shooting people who never did anything to him. Controversial thing on Reddit, but don't talk about it to avoid argument. I'm a Christian who believes in God and believes Christ was his son and our savior. Do I judge people who don't believe what I do? Absolutely not. Christians judging non-Christians is why there are so many non-Christians. Churches these days go out of their way to alienate non-believers. The church I go to allows non-believers, gays, and sinners attend our church because we believe in spreading the word, not judging people. If the government took my whole check, except for maybe $40 a week to spend on cookies and gadgets and stuff, and provided housing, groceries, healthcare, and internet, I would have no problem with that. If it worked, I would love that system, and I would trust the government to take care of me. Socialism scares be damned. Hitting women shouldn't be frowned upon as instantaneous woman beating. If a woman hits a man, he is dang entitled to hit her back. Steve Jobs and Apple have been ruining our ability to innovate consumer technology since the launch of the iPhone. Android isn't as open as people think. I still like it. Microsoft has been doing good work lately. You should be educated to a certain degree and have a stable income before being allowed to have children. I'm successful but self-taught. Frick your application process. That children through their parents have too much of an impact on society. Whenever someone argues that something should be banned or discouraged because they don't want their child to be exposed to something, well frick you. Having a child was a choice, so live with it. Whilst you may not want to explain to little Timmy why two guys are married, that does not mean that you should be able to greatly restrict the freedom of everyone just to try and protect your stupid child. I believe that there is much more to human history than we're taught or even know. Modern humans date back some 200,000 years while the societies we know and teach date back, what, 10,000 years on the outside? Paparazzi should be illegal. They are not positive or progressive for anyone's life. Everything does not happen for a reason. This isn't a real-life Disney movie. Girls and boys are not sold into sex slavery in Cambodia because some higher power is using it for some overall good. And people who screw up wasn't forced to do it for some deep lesson or higher meaning. Music today on pop and hip hop stations is turning into crap that is reversing some of the changes they made in stereotype and is discouraging intelligent thought. Not all of it, but I am surprised when thoughtful songs get on the air. Americans have got to stop being so obsessed with what they look like and need to get back to being proud of who they are. I feel like I am taking crazy pills, as so many girls will justify boobs for confidence, which sometimes makes sense, but then cry that they can figure out a computer or car thing. Freaking Google IT. I do, and I am a tiny little girl. I know this position is a horrible one given the inhuman abuse of it in the past, but eugenics is an interesting topic. I suffer from a variety of stress-related mental illnesses, ranging from depression to anxiety disorder. My father has bipolar, my mother has bipolar, my brother has bipolar, My sister has bipolar, so it is a fair chance I either have it or my children would inherit it. So I made the decision to never have children until in utero genetic manipulation became advanced enough to correct the flaws I suffer from. There are certain things no human being should ever experience. From age 7 until I was given medication. At age 16, I had the overwhelming desire to commit suicide to escape the horrific emotional pain I endured. Happiness was a vague concept most of the time, and the idea that I could experience long periods of it was all but absurd to me. I refused to take a chance that any person resulting from my flawed genetic code should ever experience such a thing. To do so would be beyond monstrous. Affirmative action is stupid. Sports scholarships are bulls, and the death sentence should be legal, but those on death row should be able to choose how they die. Fat people disgust me. I hate the sight of them, and I usually have less respect for them than others. I'm not talking about chubby, but fat or obese. I can't say one conspiracy in particular, but I don't think it is a long shot to say the United States government isn't telling us something about Pearl Harbor, 9/11, JFK, etc. Ask yourself this: if the United States government learned today that an asteroid the size of Texas would impact the Earth in 2016, when would the public learn about it? If one can preach about a right to life, you must also accept a person's right to die. In other words, you have the right to choose when you want to or are ready to die. I don't know where to begin, but I really do believe the government knew more about 9/11 than it has ever let on. It terrifies me. I'm not into the major conspiracies. It just seems sketchy, like Pearl Harbor. I do believe in a new world order, and I don't mind the possibility of it at all. As in, I would absolutely love to live in a world similar to the one in Brave New World. It also, then, goes without saying that I believe in population control. That holding political office was never meant to be a career. They are very overpaid. So are pro athletes. Black History Month. It is racist towards others and promotes segregation, or women being allowed to hit men. To an extent, while vice versa is a serious offense. There are a lot of things that promote racism or sexism or discrimination, but people think they are steps in the right direction, such as scholarships for minorities. I have some rich friends who are not white and still earn scholarships they don't need, while I don't have money and being a white male can't qualify for the same scholarships. No one will probably read this down here, but I believe that racial or national pride for your home country heritage is completely unnecessary. There's nothing exciting about going to a parade at some street, tooting your own horn saying "Go, home country," and cheering at how proud you are that you were born in a particular country. It's almost like saying that your country is better than the rest, or saying that your flag is better than the others. It probably feels like singing happy birthday to yourself. If it's a sporting event, such as soccer, then I can understand that you want your team to win, but cheering simply because you're from a particular country? It's kind of lame and dumb. We're all from some country. The entire American political agenda for the last 30-40 years has been to try and create a large population of poorly educated workers who are paid low wages and live off low quality goods in order to compete with the rest of the low cost manufacturing world that lives off far less than us and focus wealth towards top echelon of citizens who control the direction of the country. Abstinence only sex education and stigmatizing birth control abortions, plus limiting educational opportunities for our youth lends itself to this theory. That and the emergence of Walmart type stores that make things cheap and sell them cheap, that offer everything someone could need, creating competition that uprooted both higher quality goods and jobs. In the 1950s, a single parent working on a GM assembly line made today's equivalent of a six-figure sum. Nowadays, it's hard for two parents with a decent job to make those wages. Amazing how things have changed. But the middle class is a natural resource. Like all natural resources, you can only take so much from it at a time before it can't replenish itself. We are figuring that out now. The belief that religion is the root of all evil and humanity would be better off without it is wishful freaking thinking. Israel is a racist state that has gotten away with actions that were condemned as terrorism when Palestinians did them. One of the biggest causes of violence in the Middle East is the Israeli belief that it's okay to create settlements where other people live. The men vs. Women pay gap isn't some form of discrimination like many feminists claim. There are several reasons why men earn more, which include working longer hours and taking more risky inconvenient jobs, as society tells them that they must work hard to provide for their family. Women typically take more time for themselves and their children. Nobody ever says anything about fathers who don't get to spend as much time with their children because of how demanding their job is. Your first point is hardly controversial on Reddit. Same with your second point. Black culture needs to be assimilated away, as it is inherently harmful to whatever civilization is implanted into due to its chaotic nature. Food aid needs to be stopped. It only helps in the short term, is expensive, and does more harm than good. Humanitarianism is unsustainable, and countries should concern themselves inwardly, looking after the needs of their own citizens far before anyone else's. A Western standard of living is impossible to impart to the rest of the globe due to resource shortages, and should be protected rather than given away. The age of consent laws in the United States are ridiculous and cause far more harm than good. The sexual registry is barbaric, as is the drug war, though I know that isn't particularly controversial around here. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.